Hey buddy, I hope you're doing well. So IEnumerable and IQueryable. These are the two important things for C#.NET developers. So when I've started my career, I blindly started using IEnumerable, IQueryable. I don't know, but only thing that I knew was that this is going to give me data, whether I need from database or from a C# memory. So I started blindly using this. At some point of time, my application crashed, and then I got to know, okay, we should not use these things blindly. We have to use these things wisely. So this video, we're going to talk about when you have to use IEnumerable and when you have to use IQueryable. Along with this, we will also see how we can implement these things. We will also talk about the performance, which one is good for performance. So let's go ahead and start. We are in the Visual Studio. So for IEnumerable, you need to remember one thing, that IEnumerable is in process. So keep this word in mind. I will explain you later what does that mean. Okay. So we are in the Visual Studio. Let's go to Solution Explorer, and what we are going to do? We are going to use existing service class that we already have here, and from this class I will show how you can implement IEnumerable and IQueryable. Right. So if you go to Solution Explorer, here we have one person model. This model that we have created, it has only two properties, first name and last name, that we are going to use for our today demo. Okay, so let's close this. So what we will do, let's create one more method, and I will say, hey, this is my public. Let's focus on IEnumerable first. So this is my IEnumerable, and I would say, hey, return what? Return person model that I've just shown you. So I will say, hey, return this, and say get instead of people, let's use the same name, say persons, right? So now this is going to give me list of all the persons, right? Before this, now IEnumerable is what? IEnumerable is a interface, nothing else. It's just an interface. Now let's go more deeper into IEnumerable and let's see how these things are. So if I go inside this, let's go inside, you will see IEnumerable has only one method, that is getEnumerator. What it means? This method is going to help IEnumerable to make a for loop on the data, to iterate. That is why it is called getEnumerator, right? So now if you look at the return type of this getEnumerator, you will see this is something called IEnumerator, right? So what you can say, IEnumerator is a box. Within that box, we have something called getEnumerator with return type IEnumerator. So IEnumerator will help on the for each to with three different things. So let me show you what are these three different things. If I go inside IEnumerator, so you will see, let's go one more level. So this interface, right? Here you go. So you see there are three things: current, move next, and reset. What current does? For each loop, within for loop, where right now this item is, what is the position? So all of these things you can fetch from current. Move next, the second bool that you see, it says, hey, move the next. That means move the item from this to next advanced level, right? So increment y1, that is what move next does. Even if you expand this, you will see the same thing. You see, advance the enumerator to the next element of the collection, right? So this is what move next. Now what is reset? The third. One more thing about move next, once you are moved to the next item, it will return true. If there's some exception, for some reason it is not able to move to next item, then the result would be false, right? Now go to reset. So what reset says, when this reset help IEnumerator, these interfaces to reset everything, start the loop from zero, from the first item, right? So this is what reset does. So these three things are very important. Okay, now let's go back to our method. So let's close this. Okay, here we are. So what we will do, we will set up some data over here. We are not going to deep into database, setting up all those entity framework and everything, because our objective is to clear about these two concepts. So we are going to make that data ready over here. So let's make up data ready for person model. So what I will say, hey, let's say this is persons, and I will just initialize this with that person, and I will say this is my collection, right? Because if you go over again here, you will see this comes under system.collection.generic namespace, right? So that is what it is going to split all sort of collections. Okay, so let's go over here and let's set this data. So what I will say, hey, one more, so this is my first person inside that, and so let's set up those property now. Say first name is what? Let's say, hey, first name is, let's say Praveen, right? And last name say Yadav. Okay. Right. My bad. So this is also, I'm going to set more data. So what I will do, I will say copy paste, right? So fill more data. So I would say Vikas, I would say Chandan, right? So I will took these 3 persons, right? So this is my person data ready, but we have to satisfy this return type as well. So what do we have to say? Hey, return what? Return persons. So now it should be satisfied. Let's see. Yep, it is satisfied now. So you see, we have set up one method which is returning IEnumerable type, right? List of persons. So what is next step? How we can consume it? So IEnumerable is for read only. That you need to remember. IEnumerable is only for read only, right? So let's create one more method and loop through over this method. So let's go there. Create one more method. Say public, and this time I will say a what? So let's say this will return list of what? Persons, right? So this is will return list of persons, and say get people. This time we will say get people because we already have get persons. So instead of people, yeah, that is fine. So let's do that, and I will tell you why we are using list here, because with the help of this method I'm going to give demo on IEnumerable and IQueryable both. So I have used it as a list, so later on we don't need to change the return type of this method, right? Okay, so let's go ahead. Now what do we have to do? We have to iterate over this get person because this is returning that IEnumerable thing. So what do we have to do? We have to say, hey, where, let's call this method first. So we have to call this method. So we have to say this is my persons list, right? And this is wrong. So here you go. Okay, so this is my method. So we have called get persons, right? And we have this list. Now we have to make a loop through this. So what do you have to say? You have to say for each, and you have to say where item in where this person list, right? And now you can do whatever you wanted to do, right? Okay, so now I told you that IEnumerable is only and only read only. This interface is only read only. You can't add any item inside it. If you want to try, let me show you. So let's see, this is a list, right? And if you wanted to add any item inside it, you are not allowed to do that. Let me show you. So person list dot, you see all the extensions that you see over here, everything is for read only, for reading of data. There is nothing that you can do add and add range, nothing is there, right? You see, there is nothing called add. So that is why it is only read only, and you can iterate through that list, that IEnumerable. But still you can modify that data. While iterating that data, you can replace some of the item. That all depend on you. You can replace that data within that for each loop. So how you can do that? So let's say this is my item, right? So what I would say, hey, my item. So I would say, hey, this is my item. Change what? Change first name to what? Let's say modify test, right? So I'm just renaming it. Okay, so now what is next? Okay, this is still not happy. Why? Because we have to say return from here. So return this list finally. So now it should be happy, or it is still not. Why? Okay, I know. Because it says we are trying to return the list, but it says, this person list is a IEnumerable. So what we have to do all, let's, cast this. So we have to say, hey, you are the list, right? So now you can return the list, right? So now it is happy. So let me show you, how it works now. What I have to do, I have to inject this inside the interface. So let's inject here. Okay. So this interface is ready. Now, what we will do, we will go to our controller over here. So from here, there should be something called controller. Here you go. Okay, so here. So let's use this endpoint actually to call that method. So what I have to say here, return what? Hey, return get, sorry. So there should be something called interface. I already have, yep, let's say this. So service one dot and get people, right? And this should return me the data, but I have to change the return type as well. So what I will do, I will go inside here and just make it happy. So it should be in sync, the return type should be in sync. Now it is happy. Okay, so let's put a breakpoint here and start this. Let's see what happened now. So I will show you through the breakpoint, what was the original data, and when we have modified, how it is behaving now. So let's call our get service endpoint, and here you go. So you are inside get service endpoint. So let's go inside this and put some breakpoint. Here you go. Okay, so here we are. So we are inside our service method. One breakpoint let's put here, over here. So done. And if you look at the person list, we have all those data that we have: Praveen Yadav, Vikas Yadav and Chandan Yadav, right? So all of the data is here. Now what we are doing here, we are trying to modify data. That means the first name. So for now, what I have done, I have not put any condition. What I am saying, hey, whatever data is coming from there, that list, just modify everything. The first name, just modify first name with modified test. Now let's do that. For sure it has to run 3 times. You see, here you go, modified test. The first name is modified test and last name is still the same, right? So this is how you can modify still. But IEnumerable is only for read only. You can't add, because there is no extension method to support such things that where you say .add in, there is nothing like that, right? So this is what it does. Now how about the IQueryable? So let's again set up the same sort of data for IQueryable as well. Okay, so stop this, and what I will do, here you go, I will say copy paste, and instead of IEnumerable I say IQueryable, right? And get person, just what I will do, I will say here queryable, right? Change the name, get person queryable, and this is just get person, that is IEnumerable, right? For sure data should be same. And here I have to say here, either I could say list, or you can say as queryable as well. That will also be happy, right? Here you go, because it is IQueryable. So if you wanted to return same sort of data, you can use that extension method called as queryable. Otherwise you can still use the list. So this is something different. In IEnumerable, when the return type was IEnumerable, you have to do nothing. You was saying whether it was a list or a collection, you was returning the same thing, right? It was knowing by default that this is IEnumerable, so I can return anything. But in IQueryable, you have to explicitly say, hey, whatever the list, I have to return as queryable. Otherwise it is not going to happy, right? So keep in mind that thing also. Okay, so now let's understand about IQueryable as well. So first thing, you need to use this syntax, IQueryable. IQueryable is also just an interface, right? And now let's go inside IQueryable and see how it works. So if you see here, IQueryable again implement the same interface in IEnumerable, right? So this is again in implementing all the property from IEnumerable to IQueryable. Means it is using all the properties, everything from IEnumerable to read the data, but additionally what it does, it is implementing its own functionality as well into IQueryable. So IQueryable is also a read only. You can't use IQuery for adding something. You can only use it for read only. That means the same thing what you have done for IEnumerable to iterate all those data, right? So let's see how you can consume it. We will see how these two things are different from each other. Okay, so let's go ahead. So we have this method ready, which is returning IQueryable sort of data. we have this method called get people. So what we will do here, let's let's comment this for now. And what we will do, we will copy paste same thing, and so we can save some time, and here we will call this method this time. So why I have not removed this, why I have just commented this, not removed, because we are going to use it to understand the difference. So okay, so now I have this, so I will make this name change as well, otherwise I'm going to we have trouble later on. So let's just rename it. Okay, so now use the same name for this iteration, and for sure the same thing here. Okay, so if you looking at this is doing the same thing, right? You are iterating, you are overriding. Now it's all up to you. Let's just don't override. Maybe you want to perform some logic, but what's the difference then, right? So let me before I show you the difference, let me execute this. Let's hit this button and let's see how it behaves on the browser. Okay, so let's say get service. So our breakpoint hit, and here we are. So you see, same thing, it is also giving you the data. So at the initial of this video I told because I was very new to the industry and I knew that I can fetch the data with using IEnumerable, IQueryable, so I was not bothering. I was blindly using whether IQueryable, IEnumerable. But now let me show you the difference. So IEnumerable is called in process, and IQueryable is called out process, right? So what does that mean? Let me show you with demo, that live demo. Let's uncomment the other code now, IEnumerable thing, and this is IQueryable thing. Let's put a breakpoint here and remove this breakpoint, we don't need there. Let's execute again, and then we can understand the difference. Okay, so here we are. Okay, now let's go to get service. Here we are. Okay, so now look carefully. Let's put a breakpoint here. So here you go. So if you look at the person list, you will see it has 3 data, right? It has 3 data. Now if you look at, let's go ahead forward here, execute this, stop this breakpoint, and if you look at this, it has what? It has also, I guess, same data, right? Then what's the difference? Dude, what's the difference? Right, this is same. If you don't have where clause, if you don't have any filter, it is going to behave same way. There is no difference. The only difference when you put that filter, that where query, right, or any sort of other filter. So now let's stop this, and now what we will do, I will say dot where, okay, and I will put one where clause here. I will say x, my bad, I will say x dot, so let's make it lambda expression, and I will say x dot what, x dot first name equal to the first name, let's use this name Chandan, right? And same for other, let's add where clause on curable as well. Now you will see the difference. Okay, let's remove one extra semicolon and let's go ahead. Okay, so let's see the magic now. So we are almost ready. Now we are ready, and say get service. Okay, so here you go. Now if you look at this, let's put a breakpoint on line number 47 so I can show you. Let's see person list. So now what is the expectation? I should fetch only one record from here, and that should be what? This Chandan, right, where this first name is matching. But see, let how it behaves. So if I look at the result view, oh, it is returning only one. That is cool, something expected now. But here is the trick. This is not how IEnumerable behaves. If you look at something called source, it has still all the data, all those 3 records that it had, it is still there. That means what it does, that is why it is calling in process. That means it fetch everything from that list, either it is a database or the main method which has all those data. It fetch everything from there, and then it applies a where condition, right? That means every time it is fetching every record. If it is a million, that means it is fetching million records, and within that million it is fetching only one row, that is Chandan, right? So this is what IEnumerable is. but on the opposite side, IQueryable, it don't behave like that. Okay, so now let's focus on IQueryable. So okay, here we are. So expectation is I should receive one row only, that is matching with first name Chandan. Okay, let's see. If I see here, let's see, result view is good, right, Chandan? But if you look at over here, it has nothing like that, source. It don't have all those records. That means that is why it is called out process. So instead of getting all the record, what it does, that apply filter, that apply this where out of this method, right, out wherever it is needed, whether it is database or the main method where we are fetching all this data, right? So this is the main difference between IEnumerable and IQueryable interface. So let me repeat one more time. IEnumerable is in process, it fetch everything from the source and then it applies that where condition, that filter. IQueryable is out process, that means whenever you say hey this where, it apply the same logic on the other side, on the database or on the main method, and then it fetch only that particular record, right? So if we talk about performance wise, IQueryable is way better, because here you're not going to perform that performance issue. But if you have 2 million, 3 million, 30 million records and you need to fetch only 10 records as per your where condition, then for sure you have to go for IQueryable, don't go for IEnumerable, right? So IQueryable is far better when it is considered in performance. So this is the main difference. So I hope now you understand when to use IEnumerable and when to use IQueryable. So don't get confused like me. Right now you know the difference. Though it looks like same, but internally it is not actually running the same data. Okay, so with this we have completed our IEnumerable and IQueryable. That's all for today's video. I will see you in the next video with some interesting fun fact for